שהחזרת בי נשמעתי וחמלה רבה אמונתך רבה אמונתך מודה לפניך מלך חי וקיים שהחזרת בי נשמעתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך. The medieval commentary of the Shulchan Aruch teaches that every morning God renews every human being as a whole new creation. That you simply were not the person that you were yesterday because every morning you are recreated. And so this prayer, Moda Ani, is pure in purpose. It's meant to express gratitude to God for restoring your soul every morning. I give thanks before you, sovereign, living, and eternal, for you have returned within me my soul with compassion. Abundant is your faithfulness. And you're supposed to say this before you even leave your bed every morning. So I want to invite you to sing it with me if the tune is familiar. And you can play with the blessing as it stands. This is one of those non-halachic blessings. It doesn't have a formal name of God in it. And you can adjust it to reflect your gender presentation. You can say Moda Ani if you identify as female, Modeh Ani if you identify as male, and conveniently it's also the syntax in the non-binary Hebrew project. You can call God Melech Chai V'Kayam, ruler that is living and that is eternal, or you could say Ruach Chai V'Kayam, the spirit of all that is living and eternal. So join with me. Modeh Ani Lefanecha Melech Chai V'Kayam שהחזרת בי נשמעתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך מודה אני לפניך מלך חי וקיים שהחזרת בי נשמעתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך. And so Chag Hodu Sameach to all of those who have gathered here tonight. The Hebrew word Hodu is such a convenient word. It means both gratitude. You can hear kind of the center of the word Hodu and Modeh or Moda. It comes from that same Hebrew root. And it's also the word for turkey, not the country turkey, which would be too convenient. But it is the word for turkey that you eat. And so it's particularly perfect on this early Thanksgiving Tuesday. Thank you for joining us here tonight to think about the roots of Thanksgiving and gratitude in Jewish tradition. I am grateful for the teachings of Dr. Diane Berheni, a beloved member of CBST, who is a PhD and a psychotherapist. However, Diane couldn't be with us tonight. She had to visit the orthopedist this morning, and thank God she is doing well and she is in excellent, excellent care. But if we could all extend to her love and blessings for a refuah shlema. You're stuck with me this evening, but I'm really glad to see everybody here. Tonight, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the roots of gratitude and gratitude practices in Jewish tradition. We're going to engage in a couple of different meditation practices that take words of Jewish tradition and place them into vehicles that perhaps we could continue to use over this Thanksgiving weekend, throughout our lives, and that serve as excellent rituals for building up that sense of resilience, for having a tradition that we can incorporate into our everyday lives when we're feeling grateful, when we're feeling less than grateful. And finally, we'll talk about the Jewish formula of blessings and how to create our own blessings. And then as a group, we will collaboratively create the blessings that we want to offer at this particular moment in time. So to begin, we were talking about that root in hodu, which is so significant for the kinds of things that we eat on Thanksgiving and the things that we appreciate on Thanksgiving. And I'll just be transparent. Thanksgiving is not a perfect vehicle. Definitely not this year. The story of Thanksgiving is something that some of us struggle with. And the story of what Thanksgiving is going to look like in this particular year, the Jewish year of 5781, the secular year of 2020, it's a story about Thanksgiving that we probably wish we weren't telling. And we don't yet have the perspective to be able to look back on it and think about what an aberration or what an opportunity it was to dig into practices of Thanksgiving. But it is an important moment on the civil religious calendar. You know, what are the shared religious experiences of our cultural community as Americans? It is significant and it is meaningful that there is a date on the calendar with which all of the baggage it has brought us in years past and this year's, we take time to really say thank you and to be grateful for all that surrounds us. In Hebrew, we call this phrase, instead of Thanksgiving, hakarat hatov, and the word tov might be familiar to many, as we say, Shavua Tov, have a good week, or Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, congratulations, it's a good sign, it's very good luck. This is recognizing goodness when you call it Hakarat HaTov. And this is a particular midah, this is a particular value and orientation towards the events that life hands to us, to be able to look at them in all of their wholeness and acknowledge within them the good. And this is a central feature of Jewish life ever since the beginning. Even the name for the Jewish people stems from that same root that I was talking about earlier, hodu. In the name of our matriarch Leah's fourth child, Yehudah, from which the word Yehudim, Jews, originates. This is a practice rooted in gratitude because Leah named her son Yehudah because she was grateful to God. It's built into the fabric of every single day in Judaism. The rabbis of the Mishnah, which was the written compilation of teachings and laws and stories of the very first century of the Common Era, these rabbis suggested that we should say 100 blessings a day and had no limit. Their imaginations were extremely fulsome about all of the different points in the day that a person could pause and say a blessing. And again, this was not an age that was particularly gratitude focused in Judaism. The Jewish people were facing oppression, persecution, and these rabbis had lost many family members and friends to the Bar Kokhba rebellion, the deeply oppressive nature of Roman rule in the land of Israel. And yet, the thing that they took from this, the message that they thought was important enough to codify and enshrine, is the focus on gratitude and the recognition of blessings, whether it's every single time you wash your hands, or every single time you put a bite of food into your mouth, never mind all of those set liturgical times for which you're meant to offer prayers and blessings to God, whether in the context of community or individually. That's what they took away from this. And another feature of Jewish gratitude that I want to point out that's pretty familiar to many of our ears is the Hebrew word dayenu, which we hear over and over in the Passover liturgy, the song Dayenu. It would have been enough. The root die means enough. This recognition that you don't have to have something grandiose like they have in the song. If it would have only been enough if God had given us Shabbat, an opportunity to rest every week. That's a pretty majestic, universal, wider than ourselves gift that the song asks us to be thankful for. But if we think about the words, it would have been enough, we can hear within them that there's no favor too small, no gift that is too small for us to register appreciation. And specifically, that feeling of being really explicit when you thank somebody for something. Receiving a thank you note that is so wholly personalized, to say thank you for this thing and the impact that it had on me and the ways that I am still carrying this gift and how meaningful it was to me, so much better than any form letter saying thank you so much for your contribution. And so for all of us who are writing these personalized thank you letters to God or to other people in our lives, or anytime we feel that the universe has presented us with an opportunity to offer gratitude, there's no little amount of science that Dr. Burheni has been sharing with me that says that such recognition literally rewires our brains. And it's essential for living a mindful life, for centering oneself in the moment, to recognize all the possibilities that every moment brings with it. Another extremely specific mention of gratitude that is so precious to us at CBST is Psalm 92, the Psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat, in the Psalm that is specifically to be sung on the day of Shabbat, Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is so good to give thanks to you, God. U'zamer shimcha elyon lehagid baboker. To say thank you in the morning. As Rabbi Kleinbaum often frames it, you can see this as literal, that like every morning when you wake up, you should say Modeh Ani, you should bless the first ray of sun that penetrates through the curtains and reaches your eyelids. Or you can think about it more metaphorically, that the psalm, when it's saying is it's important to give thanks in the mornings, baboker, ubalelot, in the evenings, can also be seen as a beautiful allegory for the span of one's life, which we never know exactly how long it will be. That perhaps it's easier to give gratitude at the beginning of your life when things are fresh and you are encountering new chapters all the time. But maybe it gets more difficult the farther you proceed in your journey. And you have to give gratitude in the nighttime too, when literally or metaphorically things are dark and scary and uncertain. Perhaps then it's even more important to give thanks. And we know this is so precious to CBST because we literally wrote it on our own HaKodesh, our holy ark that holds our Torah scrolls. I was telling my Lashon Kodesh class that probably the best indicator of the mission statement of any synagogue community is what did they choose to put on or above the doors of the ark that holds the Torah. And in CBST's case, it was words of gratitude. It was appreciation. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It is so good to give thanks to Adonai. And not only did we put it on the Aron Kodesh, we put it on all of the door handles to get into the building, to get into the sanctuary and into the chapel, to get into any of our sacred spaces. So that when you turn the handles of the building at West 30th Street, those words are literally impressed upon your hand. They give you a backwards impression so that you carry them longer than you were just holding the handle. And I think so fondly and so bittersweetly about the way that those handles were worn down and shining golden in the center, from all of the people who experience such blessings walking into the doors of CBST. What I'd love anybody to do is to put into the chat your favorite expression of gratitude in Judaism. Is it a prayer? Is it a blessing? Is it a story? Is it something you learned? What's your favorite expression of gratitude that we say as a community or that you say by yourself? Later, we're going to be sharing literally with our voices all of these words of gratitude and what we're grateful for. But for right now, give it a little thought and put into the chat what are some of those Jewish words of gratitude that you use as touchstones in your life. And these can be words to songs. They don't have to be particularly religious. They can also be secular. But it gives us a chance to see how present words of gratitude are in our life and are in our CBST community. Something that we know to be true is that as human beings, we don't tend to spend much time reflecting on the moments as they happen to us. We are kind of like sharks in this regard. If you've ever heard this biological fun fact about sharks, that they must keep swimming all of the time. They have to be in constant motion going forward. And human beings sometimes feel like that too, even though we're not necessarily hardwired to do the same thing. We don't take any time to reflect on what's happened to us. We're always looking ahead to the future. And so this can sometimes inhibit our ability to be grateful, because without that opportunity for reflection, we don't really give ourselves the space to say thank you and to feel thankful. And that's why gratitude is so tied to a mindfulness practice, which is a particular love of Dr. Burhani's. And you can see lots of traditions of this in Jewish cultures around the world, different ways that people take opportunities to stop and to say thank you. Probably the most profound among those is Shabbat, but there are tiny meditative practices that we can use to bring that sense of Shabbat into every day of the week. So one of those that I want to offer tonight is the priestly benediction. And for those of you who are already familiar with this particular piece of Torah, which is possibly the oldest words of Torah that we recognize, we say them on Shabbat morning, every morning at CBST. We have such a beautiful practice that Rabbi Yael Rapport brought to us from Montreal of holding our talitot around ourselves and then wrapping our entire community in this beautiful canopied embrace. But I want to practice a particular sort of meditation. And I promise this is going to take less than 10 minutes. So if you're not particularly a meditator, if you are a great meditator and you don't like this one, it won't be so long. You'll probably manage to get through it. But this is called a metta meditation. Metta is spelled M-E-T-T-A. And it's a practice that Buddhism has really perfected over time. And so I was so struck by the vehicle, this really beautiful modality that I hadn't encountered before now. And I thought it could make a beautiful complement to what is in Jewish tradition with this particular series of blessings. So for those of you who are familiar with the priestly benediction, it prays for three things. It prays that you should be protected by God. It prays that God's face be lifted to you and shine upon you, which I usually like to translate as God's face should light up when you enter a room. And finally, it prays that you should know peace, shalom, which at the root of it has the sense of wholeness to it. And so in metta meditation, which is translated as loving kindness, and in Hebrew we would call that gemilut chasadim, or chesed, a sense of loving kindness, you wish these blessings for yourself, which is often a very challenging thing to do, but you are the person who knows you best. And so that's where you begin. You begin with the intimately familiar. You wish these blessings for yourself, and then you wish them for increasingly distant circles of concern. So we're going to try this together. I'd like everybody to close your eyes, take a really deep breath, just that helps you be here now, instead of the other tabs that might be open on your web browser, instead of the thing that's going to happen in 20 minutes, maybe dinner, instead of the thing that happened to you 20 minutes or 20 hours or 20 weeks ago. Just focus on your inhale and your exhale so that you can be in this particular second. And I want you to visualize for yourself what protection feels like. Maybe it is the image of that talit stretched out over you. Maybe it's an embrace, or maybe it's the safety you feel when you're in your own space. I want you to really clearly imagine yourself protected. And then say these words after me. May I be protected. And hold that image in your mind and those words in your mind as I chant the first line of the priestly benediction. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May I be protected. And now I want you to think about what it feels like when light is shining on you. Whether that's literally the feeling of sunshine on your face, whether that's the sort of internal feeling you get when somebody sees you and their face lights up, whether that's being in a room that is lit by candles or soft light. Think for yourself that image of light shining upon you. And then say the words after me. May I know light. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May I know light. And now, I want you to visualize for yourself what being at peace means, which is a big concept. So try to take it in one small bite. What does it feel like when you are peaceful? When you are resting? When you're doing an activity that you love and you can lose yourself in? And repeat these words after me. May I know peace. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. Shalom. So that was step one. We have 3 steps. You wished for yourself protection and light and peace. And now I want you to think about someone who you know, but you don't know very well. I want you to be really specific about someone who you don't have a close personal relationship with, but that also means you don't carry that many feelings about. Maybe it's the nice receptionist at your dentist office. Maybe it's that person who lives on your floor who's always taking the elevator or the stairs at the same time as you. Maybe it's someone who you used to have a close relationship with in a longer ago chapter of your life, but you're not really sure what they're up to right now. Name one person that you don't know really well. And it's okay if you don't know their name. That probably means you're doing this right. But think about them. And we're going to wish that person who's just outside of the circle of your closest, we're going to wish that person those same three things. So repeat after me. May you be protected. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May you be protected. And keep holding that person in your mind who you don't know very well, but you're wishing these blessings. And wish that they may know light. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May you know light. Now wish this person who you are wishing all of these good things, even though you don't know them very well. Wish them peace. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. Shalom. May you know peace. And finally, and this step takes some work, which is why it needs practice. I want you to think of someone you don't really like, somebody you disagree with, somebody who challenges you, someone who annoys you. But someone for whom you can still wish those three blessings that you wished yourself, that you wished the person you didn't know very well: protection, of light, and of peace. So think of that person who it's not so easy to bless. But say to them, may you be protected. Yevarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May you be protected. And think of this person who you're working really hard to send blessing, even though it might be challenging. And wish that they may know light. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May you know light. And finally, hold that person who also is worthy of blessing, and wish them peace. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. Shalom. May you know peace. Amen. And take a deep breath. Bring yourself back to this present moment. And thank you for hanging in for the space of that meditation. We often find that it's easy, it's imperative for us to wish blessing for those that we love, those that we feel really close to, those that we are bound up in their success. And this is not to say that you shouldn't stop blessing those people and being grateful for them. But one of the beauties of that particular type of loving kindness meditation is it's spiritual exercise. It works at stretching your spiritual muscles. First, to people who you don't have good feelings about, you don't have bad feelings about, you feel kind of neutral, and you recognize that they deserve goodness, they deserve blessings too. And then to the people who it's harder to bless, but reminding yourself of their humanity and their capacity for goodness, and how every creature is worthy of blessing. So I'd be interested to know, we are not saving the chat from this particular gathering. We are recording, but the recording can only see my face, not the participant's face. If you would share in the chat who you were praying for, if you feel like sharing. Who were the people who were sort of within, just outside of your circle of concern, and who were the people who really challenge you? If they're in the Zoom room, maybe you don't share their name in the chat. But I would love to see, who were you offering gratitude and loving kindness to in this exercise? So the other meditation that I wanted us to practice as people are putting those names or those relationships into the chat of the people they were trying out the metta meditation on, of the priestly benediction. The other one that Dr. Burheni taught to me, so I can't wait until she's feeling better so that she can teach it all to you herself, is she called it after the Leonard Cohen lyric, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." And it's a sense of there being darkness and also light, that no darkness is pure in its concept, no light is pure in its concept, but duality always exists in every moment. And this is something that particularly struck me, being a part of this community of LGBTQ Jewish people. The ability to offer gratitude even for the dark moments and the dark chapters. This recognition that we would not be who we are right now without all of the forces that shaped us. The forces that were positive and loving, of course, are the ones that created the form that we are and gave us this capacity to be positive and loving for other people. But we would not be who we are. We would not have the capacity that we do without those dark forces, without the things that were curses instead of blessings. And in all honesty, without the things that hurt us, that damaged us, because there were lessons in those. And I am so grateful for all the things that shaped every one of you who is here today, because each of you is precious and the shape that you are in is precious. And so while not quite as extreme as a blessing for the things that hurt us. This particular gratitude practice focuses on things that we might curse, but trying to find a blessing within them. And just like that metta meditation, it's a practice. And if it speaks to you, if it's something that you can do regularly, it may literally rewire your biology to see, human beings are primal creatures. We experienced all of this programming for survival, to run away from threats, to fight back. But with gentle and carefully cultivated practice, the things that we see as threatening to us, we can start working on recognizing the goodness within them, the things for which we could be grateful. And this is a really important practice as we start heading into a chapter that, while I pray is littered with blessings, so many that we can't handle, is also sure to bring challenges and is also sure to bring things that really, really hurt us. And so creating this strong muscle of resilience proactively is a really important feature of gratitude. So once again, I want you to take a deep breath. I promise that this meditation will not be the rest of your life. I have great faith that you can do it. Take a deep breath and close your eyes. If you can, try to put both feet on the floor because that helps give you a center of groundedness. It connects you to the floor. It connects you to what's beneath the floor. Encourages your spine to curve a little bit more. Encourages your chest to broaden a little bit more. And it gives you more space to be able to take in a deep breath and to exhale from the deepest part of you. And I want you to do a bodily scan right now. Find something that's a little off. This is the part of the meditation that's easy. It's not so hard for us to be able to identify, I'm a little cold. I'm a little hungry. There's a baby crying in the background and I can't really concentrate. I'm a little uncomfortable. It's one part of me. It's kind of uncomfortable. And name that. Name that discomfort, that distraction. It's okay. So, having named that thing that isn't perfect, whether it's a feeling in your body, outside of your body, in your surroundings, that thing that isn't perfect, just limit yourself to one right now. Try to turn it inside out. It's a little cold in here. And I'm thinking about the warm, soft blanket that's on my bed. There's an animal that's distracting me in the room. And I'm so grateful for that animal's presence and its capacity for love. This part of my body is disappointing me. It hurts. It doesn't work the way I wish it would. I'm so grateful to the other parts of my body that surround it, that counterbalance it, that take on that extra weight and are strong enough to carry me and keep me going. So in naming that imperfection, use it as an opportunity to seek out a blessing, which is its complement. And maybe you wouldn't have remembered how that blanket was a gift. Or how that distraction was a present. Or all the other body parts that are working so hard that often don't merit our attention because they do work. Take a deep breath and open your eyes. So this is the crack in everything that lets the light in, a dual of dark and light. Without one, the other could not exist. And I'm really interested to know, you can put it into the chat, or if you feel comfortable sharing within the space of this recording, I'm going to ask Babette to unmute everybody, which means you have control over your own mic. You don't actually have to unmute yourself unless there's a blessing that you want to share, something that you were able to turn that imperfection inside out in order to see what you could be grateful for inside its shape. Is there anybody who wants to share? Website all through Thanksgiving, and you can reach for them at absolutely any time. We'll keep them archived in our resource sections. So if you ever want to return to these meditations, return to these practices, it'll be there for you. And I wanted to specifically speak about those blessings, at least 100 blessings every day that the Mishnaic rabbis impelled us to think about. And though I will be honest with you, I do not recite 100 blessings every day. I recognize that I should. It's in the want to category. I want to recite 100 blessings every day, because it is such a beautiful practice of like naming 100 moments every day that are worthy of blessing. And when we think about all of those opportunities that the rabbis laid out for us specifically, these actions which do have blessings, they are so varied and they are so gorgeous. There's a distinct blessing that you're supposed to say when you see a friend, and it counts over Zoom, when you see a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. Like that particular feeling of seeing somebody's face that hasn't been a part of the faces you see regularly, you're supposed to say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. This is the bracha formula. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, mechayeh hametim, reviver of the dead. And this is a feeling of like, this person has been lost to me. They have been so distant from me. But when I see them, I heard a beautiful interpretation on this recently, that not only is it like somebody I haven't seen so long, I thought I lost them, but here they are. Rather to see it as I am given life by the seeing of this person. I was hollowed out and I didn't recognize it until I saw this person's face, and now it's like I have been given new life. You say blessings when you see natural phenomena, when you see a rainbow, when you see the ocean. You say blessings over everything that you put into your body, whether it is food or whether it is drink or whether it is medicine. You say blessings every time you wash your hands, for the ability to wash your hands. It's no small thing. And the sense of restart that it sort of gives you. And you say blessings whenever you're engaging in formal prayer, but these are sort of the informal blessings. So I wanted to offer 3 blessings, which you probably know. One of them you might not, but 3 blessings which are particularly resonant. There are lots of great opportunities for them, and they demonstrate a particular concept in blessings and naming and gratitude that is central to Jewish tradition. And then we'll take some time just as a small group in this Zoom room to think about what we would like to bless and come up with language for it in Hebrew or in English about blessings that we would like to say for one of those 100 moments during the day when we could stop and be mindful of our blessings. So the very first blessing that I wanted to share with everybody is the blessing Shehecheyanu, which is for sacred and special occasions. But I really wanted to break down the Hebrew of this blessing, and then I'll sing it to Debbie Friedman's tune because I can't hear Shehecheyanu without hearing Debbie Friedman singing in my ears, and that is a blessing. And we can think about all of the opportunities that one could say the Shehecheyanu. So if we get really literal and specific, the Shehecheyanu starts, as all blessings do, with that same formula. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. So you can be on mute. I'd love you to repeat the Hebrew after me for those of you who are really practiced at saying it, and for those of you who are not as practiced at saying it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Shehecheyanu. Within that word Shehecheyanu is the root chai, life, who gives us life, Shehecheyanu. V'kiyamanu. Inside that word is kayam, sustaining. We heard it in Modeh Ani. So who gave us life, who kept us going, V'higianu, and who brought us lazman hazeh, to this time. So I'll recite it at a pretty slow pace so that we can really meditate on the words, and I invite you to repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Shehecheyanu. V'kiyamanu. V'higianu lazman hazeh. And so we think of Shehecheyanu rightly. It is the blessing which is named for first times and for sacred and special occasions. But what it's actually saying, word for word, is thank you for giving me life, and thank you for keeping me alive until this moment, for which I can be grateful. And it's an important blessing to say, even when the moment that is arriving is not even so sacred and special or even singular in your particular opinion. You're still alive and you got to see it. And that beats the alternative. So Shehecheyanu is an evergreen blessing for gratitude for every moment, the ones that contain the dark and the ones that contain the light. The next blessing I want to offer as a model is one that, I promised I would sing it in Debbie Friedman's music. So if this is a familiar tune to you, I invite you to join me. If it is not, then I offer it to you with its own blessing, a Shehecheyanu moment of hearing this particular setting written by a queer woman who was so beloved by her communities, including CBST. And may it be a sacred first occasion. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen. So the next blessing that is probably pretty familiar is the motzi, which is the blessing for bread. And it starts in the very same way all of these do. That's the spoiler. So repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. And this is all the same. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. hamotzi, bringer, lechem, of bread, min, from, haaretz, the earth. So colloquially, a lot of people say this, and certainly I am guilty of this, of saying it like it's all one word, like a sneeze. Who brings forth bread from the earth? And this is what we are blessing when we say hamotzi on Shabbat, and on any other meal in which we are eating a bready product. But what I love about this blessing is it's actually pretty contradictory. We know that bread does not just come from the earth. There is no bread bush, tree, or shrubbery that magically produces the finished product. What it means to bring forth bread from the earth is to set into effect and to recognize every step in a whole very complex chain that eventually provides us with bread, whether that is the growing of the wheat or the gluten-free alternative, and the creation of the flour and the mixing of all of the ingredients until finally what comes out on the other side is bread. It wouldn't work if any of those links in the chain were broken. So while we bless God as the one who brings bread from the earth, which would frankly be a miracle, and you see it sometimes in the Torah, what we are blessing is that whole chain. So repeat after me the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And this is a great blessing example for the things that don't just happen all by themselves. And then the final blessing I want to share with everybody, which many of you may be familiar with. It's the blessing for any kind of food that doesn't have a particular blessing attached to it. So I know in the Zoom room, some people who are extremely knowledgeable and can probably like rattle off to you with a knee-jerk reaction. If I'm blessing a babka, what blessing would I say for it? If I'm blessing an apple pie, is the main ingredient the apples, or is it the pie crust, which is the blessing I say over it? There's a whole rabbinic decision tree of every food that you eat, all the things that go into it, and which of them take priority for being the one blessing that you say before you eat it. The main categories being bread, other kinds of delicious bready things, but they're not necessarily bread, like pie crust, fruit, and fruit of the earth, like vegetables and potatoes that don't grow on trees. But then there's one that just covers everything else. And among the things that it covers are turkey and tofu. So this is a very important blessing. It's also the blessing that you say before you take a drink of water. And its words are particularly gorgeous. We say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol, that everything, nihiyeh, came to be, bidvaro, according to God's word. Because in the creation story, everything is covered. Every single creation on the planet is covered by the fact that God spoke and things came to be and they were declared good. Everything has goodness in it. So I'll say the blessing again. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol yihiyeh bidvaro, that everything came to be according to God's word. And this is a really important recognition of all the things that are in our control and then all of the things that are not. Whether or not you really want to assign God as the creator, the one who spoke, there are plenty of blessings, some of them in disguise and initially wearing the clothes of distractions, that are not in our control. And it's easier for us to recognize and offer gratitude for the things that we worked hard to create or that we were a part of the collaboration of creation, like the bread blessing. But this is a great blessing for all of those things that maybe we wouldn't have chosen or that we had nothing to do with. And that can be for great, that can be for terrible. but it is for blessing and for gratitude. So what I'd love to do for a minute is, unmute yourself at will. Everybody has control over their own microphone at this point. And are there things that you would like to have a blessing for? Are there things that we can create blessings for as a group? I'm happy to help out with the Hebrew. If there is a blessing on record already that I happen to know, or there is a great app for your phone, which is called the Blessings app by the CCAR. I can put a link to it in the chat. That is just a catalog of blessings for you, organized by topic. What are the things that you want to bless, that you want to put into that blessing formula?
What about singing practice?
Yes, singing practice is a great thing to bless. So for all the things we found to be grateful for all the things that were just waiting for us to find them. There's always a blessing to be said, even if you have to write it yourself. And a marvelous resource for finding the Hebrew words for your blessing is any online dictionary, but my very favorite is called Morphix, F-I-X. Morphix is a Hebrew dictionary online that'll give you all of the Hebrew words, like kesher for connection, and what were some of the other ones that we loved? Ahava v'shalom, love and peace. Chazak ve'emat, strength and courage, all of those things for which we pray for blessing for ourselves, for those we love, for those we don't yet know, and for those who are sometimes hard to bless. But everybody, every one of us is deserving of blessing. So we'll close tonight with one more rendition of Modeh Ani, the same tune that we sang at the beginning, giving gratitude for God that we are renewed, a brand new creation every morning, filled with infinite possibility for blessing and being blessed. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechazarta b'nishmati v'chemla, v'chemla. Rabba emunatecha, modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shehechazarta b'nishmati v'chemla, Bechemla, Rabba emunatecha. So wishing every one of you infinite blessings. I bless you with an Erev Mivorach, an evening full of blessings. And thank you for being here to share this space with me tonight. I hate to repeat myself, but it was a true blessing.
Thank
Good evening.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
The dog is
Chazak ve'ematz to all of our